So I was trying to tell you that there are several processes other than simple gamma decay process which compete with gamma decay. So one of them is internal conversion, is what I had told you in the introduction class of gamma decay. So now, what is internal conversion? I give you an example first and then go ahead and talk about it. Can you see the screen? Are you able to see the screen shared?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, okay, fine. So I will, all right. So I give you an example for internal conversion. Let us consider beta decay of mercury 203Hg nucleus. One observes, I will show you figure 1 here, this one. Mercury decay gives beta decay. This is a beta decay, and then it becomes thallium nucleus. That is, total number of protons and neutrons remains the same, but the proton number changes. So I have a thallium nucleus here. So in this case, I do find thallium decays into star. This is excited state of thallium, and then you do get a normal state of thallium. So there is a transition. This is gamma decay. When I write a slanted arrow, that is what is a beta decay. And then straight arrow is within the nucleus, you are making a transition. That is the convention followed. When I have this, I do know what is the energy of the gamma ray. Energy is 279 keV. So I will say EA minus EB is 279 keV. That I can say. By measuring the energy of the gamma ray, I will be able to make such a comment. But now what I do is I count what are the number of beta particles emitted, where 203 mercury, this emits beta particles. I want to count beta particles. When I do such a counting, you know that beta spectrum, that is number of beta particles for different values of energy. If you keep checking whether I find beta particle of energy, say something like 2 keV, you do find some number. I take 4 keV, there is some number. 6 keV, there is some number. So it's a continuous spectrum. But I noticed that the end, there is some, this is 154 keV, 264, 3 keV, 264 keV, 266 keV. There are some sharp peaks that was noticed. So I am just telling you, beta decay spectrum of mercury gives you, in addition to continuous beta decay spectrum, you do find some sharp lines. So how do you interpret it is the question. So one observes a continuous beta decay spectrum where the endpoint energy of beta rays is given by 214 keV. Okay. What is endpoint energy? You know that any gamma beta decay, you have certain properties. Just give me a minute to consider some of these. That is my iScribe. So I will repeat so that you understand what I am saying. If I take any nucleus, say X, A, Z, N, if it is undergoing a beta decay, I will write some X prime and A remains the same and Z becomes Z plus 1, N is N minus 1. This is what gives you beta decay. So I will write E minus. There should be an anti-neutrino, and this is what is beta decay basically. This electron anti-neutrino that I find here, this electron and antineutrino, they carry energy in beta decay. That means, according to momentum conservation, I have this nucleus is stationary, fixed there, but energy is carried by electron and nu e when I write energy conservation. That is energy of the nucleus A, Z, N. That energy should be equal to energy of, say, x prime A, Z plus 1, N minus 1, plus energy of electron plus energy of nu e bar. So this energy is almost stationary because nucleus does not move, it is heavy. So I do find these two should carry energy. They share the energy available in beta decay. There is some energy carried by beta particles as well as neutrino. That is why when I count beta energy, I find number of counts. Energy of beta particles is a continuous spectrum. And when it reaches highest value, highest energy, I call this maximum energy. That is what is known as endpoint energy. That is called endpoint energy. And in your lab, you have also determined it. Please do remember that you have determined endpoint energy of some nucleus. Okay. So now I am talking about such a endpoint energy. And what I want to say is, when you check endpoint energy for beta particles, mercury has 214 keV. Then, so we will say mercury undergoes beta decay and it gives you thallium star, excited thallium nucleus and antineutrino. The thallium nucleus makes a transition to its ground state by emitting a gamma ray of energy 279 keV. Remember, 279 energy wise, it is larger than endpoint energy of beta decay. Beta comes from mercury, but gamma comes from thallium nucleus. So there is a gap in energy. Fine. But now I want to say, suppose you find this kind of a transition. If you find, what are you counting? You are not counting gamma ray, you are counting only beta particles. When you count beta particles, I do find that at 263, energy 263 keV, you find a peak. And energy 154, you find a peak. Like that, you find small peaks and you have to explain. Now you have to explain it. So it was noticed that in the continuous beta spectrum, there were 3 or 4 sharp peaks at energies, say 193.3 keV. It's not 194 I have written. So that is 193.3 keV, 266.3 keV here, and 264.2 keV that is appearing here, and 266 keV. So these peaks are seen, noting that the binding energies of electrons. Suppose I find atomic spectra and notice what is the binding energy of an electron in the K shell, electron in the L shell, M shell, N shell. That is atomic physics. I find that that is the binding energy of an electron in different shells is given respectively by 85 keV. A K shell electron is strongly bound to the nucleus. It has 85 keV, and L shell has 15.4. M shell is still far away from the nucleus, 14.8 keV and 12.7 keV respectively. Now I can notice that, okay, let me try to explain it. You are finding some numbers and may be unable to see what I am trying to say. Let me say you have a binding energy of K shell electron. K shell electron in thallium atom. Okay, so I am checking what is happening. I have a mercury this is Hg, it gives you a beta particle, and energy of beta particle, endpoint energy is known. This is thallium star. This is thallium normal, and I have a beta particle. Gamma, if it is gamma, gamma energy is given by, let me check it and tell you. Energy of the gamma ray, if it is emitted, it is given by 279 keV. Okay. And then I want to tell you what is the energy of a binding energy. Let me note it down. K shell has 85 keV. Let me go there and tell you. And L shell has 15.4 keV, and M shell has 14.8 keV, and other one M and N shell has 12.7 keV. So now I will go here and tell you what I have written. So this is what I have, and I know that thallium nucleus, thallium atoms, electrons. So suppose I give you a picture, don't write pictures anytime, but suppose I tell you I have a nucleus and there is a K shell, electrons are outside, there is a L shell, etc. So then electron in the K shell, it has a binding energy given by 85 keV. Suppose the nucleus, this is thallium nucleus, thallium star nucleus, it is excited, it has to come down from excited state to ground state. Suppose it gives its energy to a electron, let us say electron outside, then I will say the total energy available is 279 keV. Energy available here, because if it were a gamma particle, gamma decay, it is 279 keV. So now I will say the electrons to get knocked off, this energy is given to what? Electrons, but electrons need, let us say, 85 keV of energy. From K shell, if it has to get knocked off, there is 85 keV. Subtract it, whatever is used for knocking off the electron, subtract it. So you do get 9 minus 5, 4, 7 minus 8, 9, 1. 194 keV is the energy of the electron coming out of thallium nucleus. That is, a electron from K shell gets knocked off with the energy EA minus EB, that is, this is a state A, this is a state B. What is its energy? Minus binding energy of K shell. So that is what I have written here. EA minus EB is 279. Binding energy is this much. Rest of the energy is carried by the electron. So if I say that, that's what I am writing here. So let me write this. So I have EA minus EB minus binding energy of K shell. That is 194 keV. 1 minute. Okay. So now you find that 194 keV is what? It is the energy of the K shell electron being knocked off from thallium nucleus. What do you have in your hand? You have a mercury which is emitting beta particles. Mercury source is there. When you count number of electrons in this, you find a typical beta spectrum, and endpoint energy is given by, say, 200 and whatever I told you here, 200 and what is the 214 keV, well known. So I will say it should end at 214, but it is, this is endpoint energy. Do you see the cursor moving? This is endpoint energy at 213. But why should I find a peak? I explain it saying that thallium is in excited state, mercury nucleus has given birth to its daughter nucleus, that is thallium. While doing that, it emits beta particles. I am counting beta particles. Suddenly, at one point, after beta decay, there is a thallium nucleus. And thallium nucleus gives its energy to the electrons, and electrons get knocked off. K shell electron has energy 194, and that energy is seen as a peak. Beta decay is always continuous spectrum, but internal conversion gives you one particular value of energy being given to the electron. So that is why you find a knocked off, that is peak there. Now let us calculate for L shell, M shell, etc. So if I count this, let us say I have Ea minus Eb binding energy L shell. Ea minus Eb is always 279, and binding energy of L shell is 15.4. And then if you subtract it, it is 263.6 keV or 264, let us say. So I do find 263 energy, 263, I find a peak. But this peak is less dominant. Number of beta particles is less dominant. Number of electrons found being knocked off by L shell is smaller compared to number of beta particles getting knocked off from the K shell. So that can be noticed from the experimental spectra. Similarly, if I take other one, that is M shell, I get 264.2. And if I take N shell, it is 266.3. Very few less energy gap, because it is of the order of keV in atomic energy scales. So I find 263, 264, 266. Peaks are getting reduced, or I can notice that if at all my story is correct, the thallium nucleus from excited state, it emits electrons, it transfers its energy to electrons, and electron gets knocked off from the nucleus. And appropriately, the K shell electron should have energy 194, L shell electron should have energy 263, M shell has 264, N shell has 266 from our theoretical calculations. And this is an experimental spectra indeed showing you 4 peaks. And peaks say that K shell internal conversion by emitting K shell electron is dominant compared to L shell electron being knocked off. Compared to number of counts is larger, number of counts is getting decreased as you move away to L shell, M shell, etc. That has to be noticed by you. So now I will continue with the discussion. That is to say, the peaks match exactly with what is observed in the beta decay spectrum of mercury. In the beta decay spectrum, I intended to only record beta decay spectrum. But in addition to beta continuous energy, I find some spikes, that is discrete peaks. So I will say this indicates that in addition to undergoing radiative transition, that is one possibility for thallium nucleus to undergo to its ground state is gamma decay. One is a possibility. If it doesn't happen, there is other possibility also. It can also give its energy to electrons, and the electrons get knocked off. So I just find that this kind of a process, internal conversion, is given by 203 thallium star gives 203 thallium normal plus electron, which are internal conversion electrons. I don't write it as beta. So earlier I had shown you what is beta decay. In beta decay, you have a thallium star. Okay, thallium star. This is beta decay. In beta decay, mercury gives you a beta particle. I try to record the spectrum of mercury. I find this kind of peaks. These peaks are basically coming from thallium giving its energy to electrons and becoming its ground state. So this is what is internal conversion. The electrons in K, L, M, N shells are knocked off from the atom, and they carry kinetic energy given by A minus Eb minus binding energy of the electron. The electrons emitted are named as internal conversion electrons. It is internal conversion because a nucleus transfers its energy to its own internal electrons. So it is internal conversion. Energy gets shared by its electrons, and electrons cannot tolerate that much energy. They get knocked off from the atom. So that is what I find in internal conversion, and we have experimental evidence for that. So what I say is definition of internal conversion. A nucleus in an excited state can perform a transition to a lower state, not only by gamma decay, but also by transferring energy directly to the electrons surrounding the nucleus. The nuclear transition is then associated with the ejection of atomic electron from a bound orbit. Energy of the ejected electron, which is referred to as the internal conversion electron, is given by kinetic energy EA minus EB minus binding energy. All that I told you in terms of an example. But now, definition of internal energy. What do you understand by internal conversion? You may write this, and EA minus EB, EA, EB denote energies of the nuclear levels. Which nuclear levels? It is thallium nuclear levels. So now I want to go ahead with the theory of internal conversion, quantum theory of internal conversion. Now I want to define an important quantity which can be verified experimentally. So for example, wait a minute. Transition probability of nuclear transition when I have gamma decay as well as internal conversion. I write total transition probability from a nuclear level A to B is then given by, I write it as T bar AB, that is coming from transition probability through gamma decay plus transition probability through internal conversion. There are two possibilities as of now. So I will say total transition probability total. Nucleus has decayed from level A to level B. What are the possibilities? One is gamma decay, other one is internal conversion. So I say total transition probability is a sum of transition probability for gamma decay and transition probability for internal conversion. We have learned quite a big deal of what is internal conversion, gamma decay transition probability. At least you have become little familiar with what is internal conversion, gamma decay transition probability. So I have written this as gamma decay transition probability, or it's also called radiative transition probability. A nucleus emits radiation. That is why I call it as radiative transition probability. This is internal conversion transition probability. Now, I will say there is a multiple value Lm for transition probability when it emits a gamma decay. So I'm writing T gamma. So I have reduced E, electric type, down here. But my notation has changed only to accommodate that there is a gamma decay and electric type with L and M. Notation change. Please note it because I have to accommodate this is a gamma decay. Otherwise, I will write Ti on top. Now I will say, you know this expression, at least you are familiar with this expression. For electric type gamma decay with Lm as multiple values, I do have this as the transition probability. We know it. I don't know what is it for internal conversion. Do I calculate it? No, don't get scared. What I write is T gamma, MLM is also given in terms of this, which we write. Now I want to introduce a new quantity called as internal conversion coefficient. We define internal conversion coefficient by alpha. I denote it by alpha, and I will tell you that alpha is equal to TIAB divided by T gamma AB. That is, how much is internal conversion, how much is gamma. So I take a ratio. If internal conversion transition probability is larger, then I get larger than T gamma, I get alpha is greater than 1. If it is less, then I will say it is gamma transition probability is larger. So now this is only a definition, ratio of transition probability for internal conversion to transition probability for gamma decay. This is called as internal conversion coefficient. We now express what is total transition probability, T bar, that is T gamma into 1 plus alpha. Can I write like this? I'm asking you, is this okay? What is total transition probability? It is given by, I defined a T bar is T gamma plus Ti. Now, take out a T gamma outside. Take out T gamma. What will be left in the bracket? You have 1 plus Ti divided by T gamma. Okay. Where is the pen? Okay. Suppose you write total transition probability from A to B levels. That is, I say that this is T gamma AB, gamma transition, plus internal conversion AB. I have said this. Now I write T gamma AB outside. So I have 1 plus Ti of AB divided by T gamma of AB. So I have defined this particular thing as internal conversion coefficient called alpha. So I will write 1 plus alpha T gamma AB. That is my total transition probability. Very simple algebra. So that is what I have written here. So I have it here. So where is that? Here. So now, if the energy of in making transition from A to B is transferred to a K shell electron, then this process is called K conversion. So now, in this case, we denote internal K conversion process by alpha K. We are only going to talk about K conversion in the theory part of it. So I write T bar, total transition probability for K shell conversion is T gamma AB plus 1 plus alpha K. Now, what is theory? We assume certain things. Let me tell you about our assumptions. We assume that electrostatic Coulomb interaction contributes mainly to K conversion process. How does the nucleus transfer its energy? There should be an interaction Hamiltonian. In our language, I should have an interaction Hamiltonian. What is that interaction Hamiltonian? I assume that the new Coulomb interaction between the nucleus, protons, and the electrons outside, that is what is going to contribute to K conversion process. Nucleus transfers its energy by interaction Hamiltonian given by Coulomb interaction. That is a statement that I am making. And if there is no Hamiltonian, I don't have a transition. That is, there should be a Hamiltonian. To understand what is a Hamiltonian, I start with the assumption. Assumptions help you to mathematically formulate your problem. Let me say that there is an electromagnetic interaction which is transferring its energy. Electrons getting knocked off is an electromagnetic interaction. Then which electromagnetic interaction? I will say for now, we take a simplest case, charges interact by Coulomb interaction. So electromagnetic interaction, which is Coulomb, is simplest for solving. So we assume that the electrostatic Coulomb interaction dominates in K conversion process. That is, I have to write a Hamiltonian corresponding to Coulomb interaction to calculate the K conversion coefficient. So now, to evaluate the transition probability TIAB of K shell conversion, we use what is called as, this is second assumption. We use plane wave approximation for the emitted electron. What is the electron emitted? It is free. A free particle is denoted quantum mechanically by a plane wave. A free particle, quantum particle, has a fixed momentum. So we write what is called as a plane wave. So I say that my assumption includes that now In order to evaluate internal conversion coefficient or TIAB, I use plane wave approximation for the ejected electron. That is, my mathematics demands what wave function should I use for the electron which is emitted in internal conversion. Emitted electron is basically free. I use a plane wave approximation, or I write a plane wave function. What is plane wave function? Wave function for a plane wave? Can you tell me? I want to know your answer to say, how do you express a plane wave mathematically? You have a wave particle which is free. What is free particle? Wave function. This is quantum mechanics. Can you tell me? Do you know what is a free particle wave function in quantum mechanics? At least say, I don't know or I don't remember. That is okay for me. I need some inputs from quantum mechanics to solve what is internal conversion transition probability. What do I need? I need what is the initial wave function for nucleus, what is the initial wave function for the electron, what is the final wave function of the nucleus, what is the final wave function of the electron. I do say that there is an interaction Hamiltonian, that is Coulomb interaction. Fine. What is the wave function of the electron which is ejected from the atom? It is gone out now. It is free. I need a wave function to express a free particle. You have learned free particle in your first semester quantum mechanics. I want you to give me what is the wave function for a free particle. After you use interactions like, for example, hydrogen atom, wave functions are much complicated. Harmonic oscillator, it is complicated. But free particle wave function should be known to you. Can you tell me what is a free particle wave function? That's what I'm asking. Hint is contained in my notes itself. It's plane wave. Do you know what is a plane wave? How do you write mathematically a plane wave?
A e power ikx plus b e power minus ikx.
What?
Or in terms of sign.
What?
A e power ikx
good. Okay.
Plus b e power minus ikx.
I will tell you. One-dimensional is this. Three-dimensional plane wave is this. But this is, now I'm not asking you in general solution. Eigenfunction is this and this. These are plane waves. So I will say a particle. When do you say a free particle? Let me remind you about a free particle. So if you write, free particle has its momentum. That is, it is its eigenstate of its momentum. So if I use a momentum operator acting on e to the ik dot r, what do you get is the question. So let me take simply px operator acting on ikx, k into x. What do you get? Px is, what is the operator for px? Please tell me. What is the operator for px in quantum mechanics? We will come to nuclear physics later on. What is, how do you write px? Operator.
Minus ih cross dou by
dou x. E to the ikx. That is wave function. What do you get here? H bar is there. Dou by dou x here. So that gives me a k. And then I have e to the ikx. So R, what I am writing here is px acting on some wave psi k gives me h bar k in psi k. That is K is a quantum number. So I am writing this kind of a eigenfunction. So I am asking you, what is a free particle wave function, eigenfunction? It is going to be e to the ikx if particle has a momentum h bar k. Momentum value is eigenvalue, that is h bar k. If I write a minus sign here, I get a minus sign. It's a particle moving in the opposite direction. One is a particle moving in the positive direction, other one is a particle moving in a opposite direction. So if an electron is moving in a forward direction, I do know what to write. It is e to the ik dot r. That is the wave function for a free particle, which is a plane wave, e to the ik dot r. It has fixed momentum. Because it has a fixed energy, fixed momentum, I will write like this. If you take a summation, it does not have a fixed value for its momentum. This is most general free particle wave function, most general wave function. So then I don't get fixed value of momentum. So I have to take 1 e to the ik dot r for an electron. So with that, I will now come back and just tell you and stop it for today, because it is little, I need some time for it. Tomorrow, next class, I will complete internal conversion. So now we use plane wave approximation and let psi A of Ri and psi B of Ri denote the initial and final nuclear wave functions, and let Ri denote nuclear coordinates. What are nuclear coordinates? I am thinking of protons here. Protons have coordinates Ri. R1 is proton 1, R2 is proton 2. Do I know what is the coordinate? I don't know, but my mathematics demands that wave function should have its coordinates. So I am writing it. Now, let me denote chi A of capital R. I want to distinguish a nuclear coordinate from electron coordinate. So I will say chi A of R, chi B of R. They denote electron wave functions for the initial K-shell electron and the final free converted electron respectively. Chi A is for K-shell. The electron is in the K-shell. After in process, final wave function of the electron is a free particle chi B of R. So I am writing this. Now I don't know nuclear wave function, but I know what is the electron wave function. Because I know atomic physics. So I ask you now what is the hydrogen atom wave function for ground state? Ground state hydrogen atom wave function is given by e to the minus r by a 1 divided by root of pi a cube. Go back and check. If it is a hydrogen atom, what do I get? So a stands for a naught divided by z. Z is equal to 1 for hydrogen atom. For any atom which is in its ground state, this is the wave function. That is hydrogen atom theory tells you this is the K-shell electron wave function for any atom with Z as its atomic number. So I have these things which we know. A naught is called Bohr radius, Z is atomic number, M is mass of the electron. So I have all that. What is chi B of R? I told you it's a free particle. So I have e to the minus ik dot r. So then I do get, oh, I made a mistake somewhere. Okay, it doesn't matter. So I am giving you here what is the wave function of an ejected electron here. K denotes the wave vector of the electron after it gets knocked off from the nucleus. This is a normalization factor. I have to find box normalization, which you learn. I don't use all those things, but I'm telling you, you are familiar with it. Once you get familiar with certain things, we move ahead to learn new things. That is where I am standing now. So with this insight in the story, transition probability of internal conversion is written as 2 pi rho by h bar, HAB. What is the interaction Hamiltonian? Matrix element mod squared d omega. What is interaction Hamiltonian which causes internal conversion? I already told you, my assumption is it is Coulomb interaction. How do I write Coulomb interaction? I will just show you that and then stop it. Interaction, Coulomb interaction is given by E squared divided by R minus Ri. Every proton, I is equal to 1 to Z, interacts with the electrons. And what is the Coulomb potential? It is charge Q1 into Q2 divided by the distance, the modulus of the distance. I will explain it from here. I have to substitute it and calculate the matrix element. We are not going to calculate all the matrix elements. I am assuring you, I will only show you what you know and how to go one step ahead from what you know. You should refresh your memory with what is wave function of ground state electron in hydrogen atom. What is K shell electron wave function in any atom with Z value? So that you know what is free particle wave function. I am only telling you about these things, writing them. I don't know what is wave function for nucleus. I am keeping it as it is. Then I will go ahead with the theory. I know the interaction Hamiltonian. I know the wave functions for electrons. Can I at least get any idea about transition probability? That is the quantum theory of internal conversion. I will stop it here and then continue in the next class about little theory. That is not exact evaluation, but we will start with that part in the next class. So if there are any questions at this point, you may ask. Otherwise, you can leave the meeting.